Good morning, everyone. Can y'all hear me?
Morning.
Madam Chair, whenever you're ready to get started, I can take the slide down and start recording. So if you can just give me a heads up, that would be great.
Yes, let's get this party started here, okay? We're good to hear you this morning and thank you. So Candace, I can go ahead and gavel us in?
Yes, we are all set. We're recording and we are live.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. I'm gaveling us in with my bootleg gavel here with my phone. I'm calling this hearing to an order. For the record, my name is Julia Mejia, City Councilor at Large. I'm the chair of the Boston City Council's Committee on Small Business and Workforce Development. In accordance with Chapter 20 and the Acts of 2021, modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law and relieving public bodies of certain requirements, including the requirement that public bodies conduct its meetings in public space that is open and physically accessible to the public, the City Council will be conducting this hearing virtually via Zoom. This enables the City Council to carry out its responsibilities while adhering to public health accommodations and ensuring public access to its deliberations through adequate alternative means. This public hearing is being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and Files Channel 964. For public testimony, written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.sbwd@boston.gov and will be made as part of the record and available to all counselors. Today's hearing is on docket 0957, an order regarding the challenge grant to be administered by the Department of Youth Engagement and Employment. This docket was sponsored by the Mayor's administration. The following individual from the administration will be participating at today's hearing: Rashad Cope, Director of Youth Engagement and Employment. We have no other counselors in attendance at the moment, but we'll acknowledge them as they arrive. I will now turn over the conversation to our panel. Director Cope, you now have the floor.
Good morning, Council Mejia, and good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you all for having me join today to discuss this very important grant that we feel is really going to support our work around improving quality job outcomes for young people across Boston. So I have provided a brief overview of the WMT grant that we are discussing today. I provided that maybe a short while ago. Not sure if you guys received that overview, but in summation, I will give a high level understanding of what we are looking to accomplish with this funding, and then just taking questions you may have. It's important to note that this funding is for internal research and program improvement only. None of this funding is intended to go directly to young people. So that is an emphasis of the grant. If no one has any questions, I'll just go ahead and get started. Great. So the City of Boston has been partnering with Alicia Monastino in Northeastern University since 2014 or shortly before to evaluate the summer jobs program. This evaluation has primarily been done through pre and post survey of participants, both applicants and folks who had actually gotten a job through the program. This assessment initiative was started through the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development with Trent and her team, and also while Midori was there, well before my time with the city. The survey is administered to all summer job providers. So that is Boston Private Industry Council, ABCD, MLK Scholars, just as recently as a year or so ago, Youth Options Unlimited, and our program through the Department of Youth Engagement and Employment Success Link. The Summer Jobs Evaluation is an effort to assess young people's access to job opportunities and ensuring that there is equity in terms of the types of young people who are accessing jobs across the city and the type of job opportunities they are participating in. The evaluation is also intended to measure gains and changes in behaviors associated with educational aspirations, community engagement, mentorship, violence prevention, and et cetera. In addition to this research, we have been discussing internally here within our department ways to improve the quality of our youth job program. We were looking at this through a macro lens in the beginning, where we will hold meetings across the board with all of our intermediaries to discuss ideas that could accomplish ideas that we could accomplish across the ecosystem. But then we began to realize that we may need to move towards a more decentralized agenda and focus on the internal improvements with the city's summer jobs program, particularly Success Link, and then focus on phasing in improvements across other providers. And one primary reason for this is the Success Link program here within the city. It cuts across all intermediaries. As our only requirement is City of Boston residency. So PIC, ABCD, MLK Scholars, YRU, the Success Link program serves all of those different populations. So that was our focus. So that kind of just led to, the grant that we're here talking about today, which is the WMT Grant Institutional Challenge grant. Which is intended to encourage university-based research institutes, schools, and centers to build sustained research practice partnerships with public agencies or nonprofit organizations in order to reduce inequality in youth outcomes. So that is the primary focus of the grant. There are 4 important goals that WMT grant requires all of its grantees to actually accomplish. One is to build a sustained institutional partnership with a public agency or nonprofit organization. 2 is to pursue a joint research agenda to reduce inequality in youth outcomes. 3 is to create institutional change, to value research practice partnerships within research institutions. And 4 is to develop the capacity of both partners to collaborate on producing and using research evidence. So because of our longstanding partnership with Northeastern University, together, we partnered to go after this grant. So Northeastern University, through Alicia Monastino and the Docket Center, is considered the principal investigator on this grant. So they're the lead agency on this grant. And our department, as the City of Boston, Department of Youth Engagement and Employment, we are a sub-grantee, so we're considered the co-principal investigator for this particular grant. And then, the focus of our partnership together is to support a new research practitioner partnership between us and Northeastern University. The partnership will advance the city's work to reduce inequality among young people through the summer youth employment program and other year-round workforce development programs, with the goal of really creating meaningful employment experiences that are aimed to prepare young people for both educational and career pathways into adulthood. And then the last piece that I'll discuss is the goal of this research practice partnership is really to conduct and disseminate both long-term as well as short-term rapid response data analysis that informs decision around policy and practice to build a more holistic and a more inclusive workforce development system for Boston's young people. And we're doing this mainly in 4 ways through this research. First is increasing coordination and alignment across city agencies, the program intermediaries that I mentioned before, community colleges, and employers to target opportunities for underserved youth. The second is to strengthen program features that have the potential to reduce any type of inequality. So that's the type of jobs that are being offered to young people across the board. Career readiness curriculum, so making sure there's alignment of these jobs have some sort of pathway and career readiness opportunities embedded within them. Job laddering opportunities, so making sure there are opportunities for young people if they're participating in a job with a community-based organization one summer, how do we ensure that the next summer, they're laddering into a job with more responsibilities that's going to ensure that they're more prepared and more developed for future success. And then the number of summers, we see young people participate in summer jobs for 3 years or 4 years in a row. So how do we ensure, how can we measure that? How do we actually use the data to say, hey, young people come in at 14, so we're going to give them 4 years of a quality job experience. So after the 4th year, we're measuring their growth, and we're able to track, their progression and their next steps. The third piece is expanding opportunities for youth to engage in post-secondary education and training, and then linking summer jobs participants to other year-round supports, i.e. the tuition-free community college program, so they can build on their summer experiences. And then the third one around expanding opportunities for youth to engage in post-secondary education, that is to build off of the Learn and Earn program, in which we have partnered with OWD and Bunker Hill Community College and BFIT to offer college courses in the form of a summer job, to ensure as kind of like a cash transfer opportunity to ensure young people are able to take courses, that align with their future interests. They're also participating in career development via, career development coaches, and they're also earning wages, as a part of a summer job. So we're measuring both, their development, but also we're able to understand, their engagement and interest in post-secondary learning, and ensuring that it becomes more of a real pathway opportunity into future jobs, and also future school opportunities. So that is really, the high level overview of this grant. Again, we are considered the subcontractor of the grant. So roughly about $254,000 is coming directly to our office. The full amount of the grant is roughly about $650,000, but just $254,000 is coming directly to the city. And that is supporting a mid-career fellow for 2 years. That mid-career fellow, is intended to understand youth workforce development and research objectives, assist in developing a strategy, a vision, and project creation, and implementing using the research that we're gathering around summer jobs. That funding is also intended to support conferences for some of our staff to attend, National Youth Employment Coalition conferences, annual Massachusetts Job and Workforce Summit, and the MAPC Metropolitan Area Planning Council Workforce Development Conference. And then the other piece of that is to support a consultant during this first year from July 1st, 2021 through June 2022. And that consultant is really focused on just coordinating the entire planning phase of this grant, coordinating the evaluation, the systems mapping, feasibility study, and an equity audit, to ensure that we have a research agenda that is really going to help us accomplish our goals over the next 2 years.
Thank
So
you for that.
I believe that's it, Counselor.
That's great. That's exciting. And I'm really happy to hear your thorough presentation in terms of how the fund will help support the work. And I'm just curious, I only have one question, and I'm just curious, how are we defining success through this research? Is it the number of jobs we place young people in, or the quality of jobs that we place young people in?
It's
and I'm also curious, how are we defining youth in this grant? What's the cutoff age?
Yeah, so the first question in terms of how we're defining success, it is absolutely the quality of job opportunities, right? So we can continue to run the summer jobs program the way that it has been ran, in previous years, but we do understand that it is our responsibility as a city to make sure that our young people are prepared, to compete for future job opportunities. And it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we are minimizing any equity gaps that exist out there that are preventing underrepresented young people from being able to access these job opportunities. So that is really the goal. The goal is to make sure that a young person can engage in a summer job, and we can measure, their improvements. This summer job opportunity is helping them develop the skills they need to compete for a future job. That it connects them to a pathway opportunity, that is putting them on a trajectory towards, post-secondary education. Then two, making sure that we're identifying the gaps, when we talk about, whether it's, Black and Latinx young people, whether it's, LGBTQ, whether it's immigrant young people, just making sure that we are not leaving any young people that need access to these opportunities out. So, the research is intended to, one, gather, a current analysis of who we're serving, how we're serving them, what neighborhoods they come from, certainly collecting geographic information, so that we can just, have that full assessment, that full picture of where these jobs are distributed, and also like the partners as well. And then your second question is the age population is that 14 to 24-year-old population. So that's mainly our summer jobs population.
Thank you for that. And I'm just curious, in terms of the research, will you guys be conducting surveys with the students and also the employers, just to kind of really get a sense of that? You may have said that, but I didn't hear it.
Yeah, so I didn't share too much of the Northeastern side of this, but Northeastern, this is in partnership with the Docket Center. Alicia Monestino is the director of the Docket Center for Urban and Regional Policy. So there is a full scope of work outlined with Alicia and her team. That consists of, surveys. So we have surveys of young people, which we have done, so we'll continue to do that. But also conducting surveys of our parents, conducting surveys of our summer job employers. So that can be private sector partners, which mainly are partners with PIC, but also our nonprofit community-based organization partners as well. We're looking to convene an advisory group, an advisory group that has some experience of understanding youth workforce development. So that will consist of some of our partners, but also, some of our folks here in the city as well. Tran, Midori, we'll ask those folks to sit on the advisory board, so that we're developing a plan together around how this research, needs to improve long-term improvements to this jobs program, after the next 2 years. This past, actually as recently as this past month, we've actually conducted a few focus group conversations with young people. We had a few parents attend those focus groups as well, just to hear about their experience, their end-to-end experience, as a participant. And then we're getting ready to release a survey for partners and also parents this week as well. so that we can, make sure that we are collecting as much data as possible that can kind of help inform the agenda, the research agenda over these next 2 years.
Thank you for that. You got ahead of my questions because you knew that was going to be my follow-up in terms of the community engagement. So I'm glad that you jumped ahead and answered those questions. I see, I have two of my colleagues who have joined us. I'm going to go in the order of arrival. Councillor Bach, you now have the floor.
Great. Thanks so much, Councillor Mejia, and thanks, Rashad. Sorry to be a little late. I did have a chance to review the materials, and as you know, I'm a big supporter of your work at YEE and super excited about this partnership. I think we've talked a lot about the fact that the summer program hits us in these waves that make it really hard in the moment to evaluate and to kind of figure out like what's working and what isn't, and which of these jobs are creating kind of high quality pathways for our youth. And so I think the idea that you're going to have the evaluation piece and then just frankly this an additional person in this mid-career policy fellow to kind of zoom out a little bit and think about identifying those what's working and what's not, it's super exciting to me. So I guess at the risk of making you repeat yourself, do you mind just saying for my clarity exactly when that person is starting and what the sort of timeline on this is? I fear you may have said that just before I hopped on, but.
Sure. No, I didn't talk too much about the timeline for the mid-career fellow, Councilor Bach, but so this grant is a 3-year grant. It started July 2021 and it will go through June 2024. This first year, which is July through June 2023, we actually it's a planning year. So we've hired a consultant, Peter Blakely, to work with us to help us plan, the research agenda for the next 2 years. So the mid-career fellow is expected to join us for year 2, which will be July 2022. And that research fellow is expected to be with us for 2 years to help really with the implementation of the research agenda that we're putting together during this first planning year, if that makes sense.
Yes, no, that does make sense. And your plan with Pieta is to have her talk to lots of stakeholders as she does that, or what's the scope of the planning work?
Yep. So on the document that I share with you, if you kind of just look at the second page when you have a chance. So one, it's systems mapping. So she's going to help us, really just assess, the roadmap of, where are some of jobs are located, the partners that we're working with. So I think when you jumped on, I was mentioning partner surveys, parent surveys.
Right.
We've done youth surveys, year after year. So being able to kind of use that information to assess, the systems mapping. And then some of those questions that are outlined, on this document, how does a young person move through the employment or the engagement process, particularly with YEE? What is the process undertaken by our staff and the partner agencies? Are there duplication efforts or bottlenecks that prevent young people from accessing these job opportunities? The population of, young people, that are accessing these job opportunities, and then just, assessing the gaps in terms of just, populations process for underrepresented young people. So she'll oversee that. She'll oversee the feasibility study and the equity audit as well. So that is the goal for PETA. Again, she's working closely with us, but also very closely with Alicia Modestino. We're all working collectively together to make sure that we're on the same page, and we're really answering, we're outlining those very specific research questions that we want to answer during this grant, and then we're outlining the methods that we want to use to be able to gather all the information to be able to answer those questions.
And are you able to share with her the previous process mapping stuff you guys have done internally?
Yeah, we're sharing as much information. Well, we're sharing as much information as possible with PETA. We've actually been conducting bi-weekly meetings on Wednesdays since the beginning of, well, a little bit before July, but definitely since the beginning of July. We meet regularly, bi-weekly, and those conversations have been a part of this.
Great. So I guess the only comments I'd have would just be, I mean, I think I saw in the memo sort of, this is to Councilor Mejia's point as well, right? The sort of like talking to young people if possible. I think that definitely, making sure that happens. And and there's a world in which that might, I don't know if you guys have thought about like small stipends for young people who make the time to do focus groups or something with her, but that seems like, to me, that seems really key. And sometime in this planning year, like my office would love to talk with her. It's obviously something that we've tried to track pretty closely the last couple of years and care a lot about trying to figure out how to smooth the challenges that you guys encounter. So those would just be my comments.
Absolutely. I think when we held our, I guess I would call it our interview with William T. Grant, as we were going through the process of becoming the recipient of this grant, we talked very highly about the city council's just, support and advocacy around summer jobs. And we also, did communicate that we do expect to have conversations with all of the city councilors, at least the ones that are available, to make sure that your voice is a part of informing, this work over the next 2 years. So I think to your point, yes, we will be, over this year, we will be working in, interviews with you guys, and obviously PETA, would be the one that would be, just engaging in those conversations. So absolutely. And then to the youth involvement, we have conducted some focus groups this past in September. Although those focus groups, to be honest, weren't well attended. And they weren't well attended because they happened right after the summer jobs program ended. So, we've learned that you got to engage those young people while they're engaged, if that makes sense. So, we're going to definitely look to conduct some focus groups during the school year jobs program, but we was able to get on the phone with them. We was able to have a few of them participate. We're also going to kind of just, engage with them via text message as well. And we do have incentives to encourage their participation as well.
Okay, well, let us know, any way we can help push that out. I know that there are a lot of, there's a lot of involved organizations, as who run youth summer programs and are invested in smoothing some of the challenges. And so I feel like, that's the other way to try to get to some folks, is saying to organizations, which of your youth are you still in touch with? And in addition to obviously taking advantage of the folks enrolled in the year-round stuff. But super excited about this. I feel like we've seen a big expansion in YE over the last few years. And I agree, I think the council's been really strong on that. Also, on pushing into the year-round job space. I know it's been a big focus of Councilor Mejia's and mine. And I think, just would definitely love to sit down with PETA and kind of make sure the council's involved in this. So thank you. Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Thanks for the indulgence.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Bach. And I'm going to ask my colleague, Councilor Flynn, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Mejia, and thank you to the great panel that is here. I apologize for being a few minutes late. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask a question. Thank you, Rashid, for the work you have been doing for many years. I know you highlighted it during a question from Councilor Bach. And let me just say, I think the best social program there is a job. And I think you were highlighting it in one of your answers, but when we provide youth a job, maybe it's their first job in the workforce, maybe they're high school students, but how are we tracking them, during that phase? They're in the job, but especially after they finish the job, is there any follow-up in terms of mentorship, maybe like a weekly call, just to keep them engaged in letting city officials serve as possibly as role models to answer questions and be there for our young people, especially as they look forward to hopefully college or a training program. But what type of follow-up and/or mentorship would there be?
Absolutely, Councilor Flynn. I think the ongoing engagement of youth job participants after their participation in the season varies from intermediary to intermediary. I can speak specifically just for the successing program that we here in our office do not directly engage with the young people that are participating in the summer jobs program after they actually have gone through a summer season or a school year season. We have continued to connect them to career development and skill development workshops here in our office. But that is not every young person. That is open to those young people that are interested in participating. We have continued to connect them to other programs and resources that are available here in our office, i.e. civic engagement, Mayor's Youth Council, our Youth Leads a Change program. But what we really lean on, and I think Councilor Barkat brought this up, is that remember, our young people are participating in jobs within our community-based organizations, right? So a lot of our community-based organizations have those relationships with those young people. They're developing those relationships with those young people. They attend these community-based organizations, to receive guidance and mentorship. So we absolutely know that these young people are staying connected, to these community-based organizations, even after, our summer job, program, ends. Some of them are engaged during the school year job program. Not all of them, but some of them, continue to be engaged through school year jobs programs. Some of them continue to be engaged in other programs, that are offered within those nonprofit organizations. So I don't think that we don't have a pulse on once a young person finishes a summer job at the end of August, going into September, where are they? We don't have a pulse on that. And I think that we can think about more of a holistic, and that's part of this grant is thinking about a holistic system or database in which we can capture. So what are these young people doing, after, they're finishing up a summer job? But I can't. So yeah, I think that that's the best way to answer that. I think with PIC, it's a little bit different because all these young people, they go to Boston Public Schools, and there are PIC counselors within the Boston Public Schools that are engaging, with these young people. And then with ABCD, it may be, just a little bit different as well, because they may not have, some of them may continue to participate during the school year. While they're a smaller program, so they do have more of a hands-on approach. They have, their program is designed to support that young adult population, not just during the summer, but year round. And then MLK Scholars, they connect young people to the CBOs similarly to the way that we do. So yeah, it looks different, but I'm absolutely, sure that there is mentorship and guidance and engagement of young people after they participate within the actual summer jobs program.
Well, thank you very much for that answer. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate the hard work you and your team are doing. You're very professional, and you treat people fairly, and you're really committed to the residents of the city. So just want to say thank you for your exceptional leadership, especially for our young people that may need guidance and mentorship. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. As a PIC student, I remember getting my first job through the PIC program, and so really encouraged to hear them named here as one of the folks who you have been engaging with. I do have a question though, is that while I was doing PIC, I was also working at McDonald's, and I was also working at a shoe store. So I don't know how I was able to manage that, but there were summers where I was working multiple jobs. And I'm curious about when you're thinking about tracking data, just curious about, are you also looking at other forms of employment that young people are engaging in that are not from the city, but that are also offering young people opportunities to build their capacity as well? I'm just curious about what that looks like, because I know I was one of those kids. I had 3 jobs during the summer.
Yeah, Councilman, that's a great question. And that is a question that we are continuing to try to answer. I think we have looked at other summer job models in other cities, like One Summer Chicago, in which, they track young people's engagement in jobs, across many different, sectors, right? So that's not just summer job opportunities within CBOs and private industries, but also could be, small business jobs, could be retail jobs. The city does not, we do not have a system in place to track whether or not a young person, has a job at a retail store, within hospitality, and is also participating in our summer jobs program. We would love to get to the point in which we are able to understand, that a little bit better here in Boston. I think the only thing that we can do right now is to tailor our research to the current participants that are engaging in summer jobs and asking those questions of whether or not they do have another job, whether it's, during the summer while they're engaged or also during the school year, until we can kind of think about, a database, that the city can invest in, that, that helps capture, job opportunities for young people across the city. But we have that has been a part of many of our discussions, and we're continuing to wrap our head around, if that's something that we can realistically accomplish with this grant, or if it's something that, we just have to continue to, I guess, get other people involved in.
Yeah, and I just want to follow up really quick, just in that same stream of thought, is that I know that even while I was in high school, not even just during the summer, but during the school year, I was juggling multiple jobs. And so I would love to know if not in this particular research, but maybe one down the future, is that we can look at how employment can either help or impede academic success.
Yeah.
I know that I used to skip school just so that I can go make some money. And I know that that's probably why it took me so long to graduate. And so I just kind of want to put that out there, that is definitely something that we need to continue to monitor, especially for young people who have to work to help support their families. And so I just want to name that as something for us to consider looking into at some point.
Absolutely, 100% agree.
And I'm just curious if any of my other colleagues have any other questions, because if not, this will probably be one of the shortest hearings in the history of me sharing something.
I'm all good. Thank you, Councilor Mejia.
Thank you. I'm not sure. I don't believe we have any folks for public testimony. Okay, great. Seeing none, then I will draw this hearing to a close. And as the chair, I will move on the council to recommend that this order ought to pass at the next council meeting. And thank you, Mr. Cope, for all your hard work. We really do appreciate it, all that you do to serve our young people. And thank you to my colleagues for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.